Well, let's shift our focus now to the African Climate Summit. And of course, African leaders attending the summit in Addis Ababa this week called for a new global partnership that treats the continent as an engine of climate solutions rather than a recipient of aid.
Brothers and sisters of Africa and friends from across the globe, welcome once again to Voice of Africa. The channel where the stories of our continent are told with depth, balance, and dignity. Today we bring you a story that has captured the attention of leaders, investors, and citizens alike. It is about Africa's bold plan to raise $50 billion every year for new climate solutions, an initiative that could shape the future of our environment, our economies, and our communities. Before we begin, we kindly ask you to like this video so that YouTube recommends it to more people. Your support helps us continue bringing Africa's voice to the world. The news comes from Addis Ababa, where African leaders gathered for a high-level climate summit earlier this month. At this summit, they unveiled two major initiatives: the Africa Climate Innovation Compact and the African Climate Facility. Together, these initiatives are designed to raise and channel about $50 billion annually to fund climate solutions across the continent. This is not just another conference declaration. It is part of a concrete roadmap for Africa to tackle one of the biggest challenges of our time: climate change. Africa is among the regions most affected by rising temperatures, erratic rainfall, and extreme weather events. Yet historically, it has received far less funding for adaptation and innovation compared to other regions. The new initiative aims to change that. Leaders say that by 2030, the continent should be able to deploy 1,000 climate solutions. These will range from renewable energy projects like solar and wind to water conservation systems, sustainable agriculture, and cutting-edge technologies for reducing emissions. To understand why this matters, it's important to recall Africa's vulnerability to climate change. According to the United Nations, more than 60% of Africa's population depends directly on agriculture for their livelihoods. Changes in rainfall patterns threaten crops, livestock, and food security. Rising sea levels endanger coastal cities from Lagos to Alexandria. Increasing droughts have already displaced communities in the Horn of Africa, and floods in West and Central Africa have caused both loss of life and billions of dollars in damages. Yet despite these challenges, Africa has historically received only a fraction of global climate financing. Estimates show that while the continent needs over $200 billion annually to meet adaptation and mitigation goals, it currently receives less than a quarter of that. Leaders at the Addis Ababa summit emphasized that this imbalance is no longer acceptable. The Africa Climate Innovation Compact will serve as a platform to bring governments, private investors, and research institutions together. Its goal is to identify promising climate solutions, test them, and scale them across multiple countries. By connecting innovators with funding, the compact seeks to accelerate the development of technologies suited to Africa's unique conditions. Meanwhile, the African Climate Facility will act as a dedicated financing mechanism. It is designed to mobilize resources from both international donors and African governments, and then direct those funds into priority projects. The facility aims to ensure transparency, accountability, and measurable results so that money raised truly benefits communities on the ground. At the summit, several African leaders made strong appeals for international support. They argued that climate change is a global crisis, and Africa should not be left to face it alone. Many pointed out that the continent contributes less than 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, yet suffers some of the worst consequences. Therefore, they said, richer nations have a responsibility to provide grant-based funding, not just loans that increase debt burdens. The message was clear. Africa is ready to lead with its own initiatives, but it also calls on the global community to match ambition with resources. One of the striking features of this initiative is its focus on innovation. Rather than relying solely on traditional projects, the compact and the facility will prioritize new solutions tailored to Africa's realities. For example, expanding off-grid solar energy in rural areas where national grids may never reach, developing drought-resistant crops that can withstand unpredictable rainfall, creating climate-smart irrigation systems that save water while boosting yields, building early warning systems for floods and storms, using mobile technology to reach communities quickly, supporting youth-led startups that design apps, sensors, or tools for sustainable farming and energy use. This emphasis on African-driven solutions is seen as a turning point. Instead of importing technologies that may not fit local conditions, Africa is seeking to develop and export its own models. The scale of the ambition is also significant. Raising $50 billion per year is no small task. Leaders plan to combine multiple sources, contributions from African governments, private sector investments, green bonds, and international climate finance. Institutions like the African Development Bank and the African Union are expected to play coordinating roles. Experts note that while raising such sums will be challenging, it is not impossible. The global appetite for green investments is growing, and Africa offers vast opportunities. From its abundant sunshine and wind to its young population and untapped land, the continent has many of the ingredients needed for a green revolution. The initiative also aligns with broader continental goals. It fits within the African Union's Agenda 2063, which envisions a prosperous and sustainable Africa. It complements the African Continental Free Trade Area, FCFTA, by promoting regional trade in renewable technologies and green services, and it connects with global commitments such as the Paris Agreement and the upcoming COP negotiations. At the Addis Summit, speakers emphasized that this is not just about fighting climate change, it is also about creating jobs, improving health, and boosting economic growth. Green projects like renewable energy plants or sustainable farms can provide employment for Africa's youth, who make up more than 60% of the population. Cleaner air and water mean better health outcomes. Resilient infrastructure reduces the economic losses from disasters. Of course, there are challenges. Corruption and mismanagement remain concerns in some countries. Critics warn that unless strict transparency measures are enforced, funds could be diverted away from their intended purposes. There are also fears that international donors may prefer to offer loans rather than grants, which could burden African states with more debt. Another challenge is ensuring inclusivity. Climate projects must not only focus on cities or large companies, but also reach rural communities, women, and marginalized groups who are often the most affected by climate change. Leaders at the summit pledged to make inclusivity a central principle, but the real test will be in implementation. International reaction to the announcement has been cautiously positive. Some donor countries welcome the initiative as a sign that Africa is taking ownership of its climate agenda. Development banks have also expressed interest in supporting the facility. However, concrete pledges of funding have not yet been announced. Observers expect more details to emerge at the next global climate conference, where Africa is likely to press for stronger commitments. For ordinary Africans, the success of this initiative could have far-reaching effects. Imagine villages where solar mini-grids provide affordable electricity, farmers who grow crops that survive droughts, or coastal cities with seawalls that prevent flooding. These are the kinds of outcomes that the $50 billion initiative aims to achieve. It is also a matter of justice. Africa did not cause climate change, yet it is among the hardest hit. By mobilizing funds and innovations, the continent is asserting its right to protect its people and secure its future. Brothers and sisters, this is the story as it stands. From Addis Ababa comes a message of determination. Africa will not wait for others to act, but will chart its own course in the fight against climate change. The goal is clear: raise $50 billion a year, deploy 1,000 climate solutions by 2030, and build a continent that is resilient, innovative, and sustainable. Before you go, we kindly remind you once again, please like this video so that YouTube recommends it to more people who care about Africa's progress. Your support allows this channel to keep telling Africa's story with clarity and truth. Stay connected with Voice of Africa for more updates on climate, development, and the future